there's a voice now.
Yeah.
Again, everything was hush-hush, and now people are speaking up. And when people speak up, things get noticed and things change. When people keep
Makes all the difference.
When people keep quiet and everything slipped under the rug, then nothing changes.
You're listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in the entertainment industry and hear their stories. For this episode, I got to speak with Hilary Wagner. Hilary is the Vice President of Production Finance at CBS Studios. Here's a story about how the entertainment industry gets ya. Your first couple of jobs are Seinfeld and Waiting for Guffman. Are you really going back to corporate audit? Of course not. That's what happened to Hilary. Hear how she worked her way up through production accounting to production finance on the studio side, and how she's now at the point in her career where leadership and mentorship becomes just as important as getting the numbers right. You could find us at theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, photos, show notes, and the merchandise. Please go to the website and sign up for my newsletter that keeps you posted on all things happening with the podcast, like episode 100, which will happen next week. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbay, and now on Spotify and iHeartRadio and YouTube. Okay, here's my conversation with Hilary. Have a listen.
What do you do?
I am Vice President of Production Finance at CBS Television Studios.
That's a big fancy job, lady.
Yeah, well, I've been there about 3 years.
And before that?
I was, Senior Director of Production for about a year at TNT and TBS. And prior to that, I worked at Turner in production finance as a senior director at that level.
So you went production finance and then production executive for a minute and then back to production finance.
Correct.
Why?
Well, it's a good question.
Because everybody thinks, like, if I could just get to production executive.
Well, that's exactly. And it's interesting because it
looks more fun from the outside.
Absolutely. And I'm not so sure that I don't want to go back there again. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't the right time and the right position and in the right company, I think. Yeah, so I had an opportunity to move into production. I'm like, this is the direction I go. Also, the person, Mark Weissman, he moved over, and I had so much respect for him, and I wanted to move over and work with him. I said, if I'm going to do this and learn, I want to learn from him. So I got the opportunity to make that move, and I didn't get to spread my wings as much as I thought I would.
It wasn't what you thought it was going to be?
You know what? I think had there had been more product out there and more work, and I got to be more involved in the shows, it would have been more challenging for me. Because I felt like
There was a lot of acquisitions, wasn't there?
Yeah. Yes and no. They were kind of in a growth. That was just at the point where they were doing a 2020 cut down. Turner was, where they were.
What does that mean?
Well, they were basically cutting back. So there was cutbacks. There wasn't much going on, and the volume wasn't that big. And we had, it was a great opportunity. I think they were afraid they were going to lose me at one point because another opportunity had opened up at CBS, and I had gotten a phone call. And they wanted to keep me there, and I was thrilled. I was excited. I probably could have stayed and made the best of the opportunity, but what I kind of found out, and it's interesting, is that production and that level, and this is really, it's hard for a woman.
Oh, tell me more. Why?
Well, I definitely think there's a boys' club mentality to it, and I think you have to fight a little harder. And I have no problem, or I haven't had much of a problem, working in a man's world. But
it surprises me hearing you say that.
Yeah, I
know you.
Yeah, I haven't, and it's like I usually walk, but I felt it there. And it was the first time I had felt it there because in production finance and accounting, there's a lot of women in the industry and they're very high levels. And I felt.
And it's numbers and data, and they can't argue with you.
Exactly. Well, they can try. But I found that it was a little bit more challenging.
What did that look like?
Well, I think it was a position that they had created for me. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't really given the opportunity to have shows to kind of put my hands around and manage on my own. And I found that I had more responsibility and more impact in the world of production finance. I felt that I had more of an impact. I felt that in production...
Did you have a bigger voice?
Yes. And I was respected more. And I'm not saying I could not have gotten to that level in production. was only there, I think I was on that side maybe for 10 months, 12 months at the most. And I was happy, and I wasn't looking to make a move. But then I got an opportunity. I got a phone call. One of the vice presidents who ran the department at CBS was going to Netflix, and my boss came in to me, and he's like, "Did you get the call yet?" And
They're all waiting for it.
I said no, and then I got the call that afternoon.
Yeah, funny.
And then I thought about it, and I went to Mark, and I said, "Look, I want to grow. This is what I want. I want to grow. But if it's not going to be me having responsibility, overseeing shows, and doing what you brought me over here to do, I'm
an ambitious human."
Yeah, I said, and he came to me. And he basically said, he goes, "I don't want you to go, but," he goes, "that job's made for you." Yeah. And he was honest, and I have so much respect for him. And I've had so many great mentors and great bosses. I've been super fortunate. It's been amazing. I can't even think of one person I've worked for that I did not like working for over my 23-year career.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been super lucky.
And have they been mostly men or women?
Yeah, mostly men. Mostly men. Yeah. Some women, some men, but I would say probably 60-70% men and 30% women.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you think about, because there's some buzz now, the backlash is coming, and now you've heard some men speak out and say, "Oh, now I'm afraid to mentor women, or afraid to take women under my wing, or afraid to be alone with them because, some woman could make some crazy claim and end your career." What do you say to that?
Well, look, I think you're right. I think men are going to have to kind of pause before they maybe open their mouth. I think it's making people think twice about what they do and what they say. But I think anyone that is a true good mentor isn't going to have a problem and maybe isn't going to think twice about it.
Right.
I hope not. I've had most of my mentors have been, I've had both actually. I've had female mentors and I've had male mentors. And I'm going to say in the 23, 24 years I've been doing this, I don't feel that anyone's crossed the line with me. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true.
Wow, never?
Mm-mm. Or at least I didn't take it that way.
In general or not your mentors?
No, in general. I know.
Are you the one woman who's not been sexually harassed?
Well.
Are you patient zero?
I don't see it that way.
Huh.
I don't. I don't think so. I probably wouldn't be that person that said me too. And I know.
Wow.
There's not one time where I felt that someone really crossed that line with me. And if they did, if they were rude about something, I didn't look at it that. I just said something back to them and went on my way. And I never thought to myself, I was just sexually harassed. I guess I would never put a label on it.
Yeah. You just
Maybe
got on
that's
with
it. Yes. I just moved on.
Yeah.
People have made, and I did work for a boss once who's a male, who was demeaning to women and just thought lesser than, and I knew that about him, but I didn't let it, I don't know, I didn't let it infect me. Mm-hmm. I just said, that's him, and I worked around it.
Yeah.
That was my approach to when someone maybe was not as respectful to women as they should have been.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of women do. Mm-hmm. It's just, all right, I see you, fella. I'm just going to get on with it.
I guess maybe what I'm saying is I'm not going to put a label on it.
Right. You haven't been paralyzed by it.
No. No. But I will say I did notice it. Well, I'm going to circumvent a little bit because back to my story about, moving over to production and saying that's a boys' club.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I felt it from producers. And I think women producers have a tough time out there, line producers.
Oh, for sure.
Or producers all across the board. I know they have a tough time. So maybe me feeling it and not putting myself in that situation, could possibly mean that I'm dancing around it. I don't know. I never went full force on it. I don't know.
Well, I think there's probably a difference between sexual harassment and gender bias or unconscious gender bias.
Correct.
Or so, men just treating you differently rather than all-out harassment.
Right.
Or just not letting you in.
Well, I think it's not letting you in or not acting or not being the same with one of the guys. Mm-hmm. There definitely is a different approach to, and that kind of makes sense. It's just life, it's men are men and women are women, to a certain degree.
Can you say what it looked like? Like, were you not heard? Were you not taken seriously? Like, what made it feel like it was a boys' club?
Okay, so when you walk, and here's an interesting example. So when I walk into a meeting, and there's mostly men there, and one of my mentors always said to me, Susie Greenberg, she's a line producer, and she came into my career very early on, and she said to me, she said, no one, when I walk in, or anyone that I deal with, no one is lesser than me. And when I talk to somebody, I'm at the same level. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're the head of the studio. And she really acted that way. And she
just owned her power.
She did. And she had I think just coming from a strong family base, she did. And she never, ever put herself less than in any situation, no matter how big the person was. And she told me that in my early 20s. And I always walked, like that was the approach that I took. When I walk into a boardroom, and there's, powerful men and women, I felt like, hey, I should be sitting at this table too. I'm and my position could be much lower. And I did not really have an inhibition to speak up when I was careful. You speak up about something that you know about, and, you want to make sure that your speech is smart.
Don't sound like a dum-dum.
Right. But I guess that stuck with me. I mean, there were times where I felt a little intimidated, maybe, but I didn't let that get the best of me. I didn't let it hold me back to what I needed to do.
I think that's really unusual. That's incredible advice for you to have gotten so young.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that quote. I don't even know who said it.
Yes.
No one makes you feel inferior without your permission.
Exactly. And so back to your question about what does it look like in the production world. It's tighter in that world because it is more, there's different kinds of ego. You're not sitting in a boardroom, you're kind of on set, and, and
it's a different game.
The rules are slurred a little bit. So when you walk up and the director's sitting there and the producer's sitting there, and you're from the studio, and first of all, they don't want you there because you're from the studio.
Right. So you got that going against you.
Yeah, and then being a woman, and it's just, you feel it a little bit more. So you kind of have to figure out a way to kind of work your way into that conversation. You know what I'm saying? You have to figure out a way to work your way into a conversation and listen and find a good opening and a smart one. And you just have to read people.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So that, I saw a lot more of that, and it would have taken a lot more effort. And I'm not saying that I wasn't game for it. Another really great opportunity came my way, which I thought, okay, I can get there faster this way.
Yeah.
And it was what I knew, and it was what I was good at. Doesn't mean that I don't want to go back and do production, because I love that creative side, and that's the one thing that I would like more of in my career. So, time is still in front of me.
So you got plenty of runway.
Yes, hopefully.
Now, how did you get into this business in the first place?
It's interesting. So I was an accounting major at Cal State Northridge.
What?
Yeah.
You were an actual accounting major?
Yes, I know. I'm one of the few.
That hardly ever happens.
I'm one of the few. I was. And I was a single mom, and I, was working, put myself through school, and I had an opportunity. I wanted to do entertainment accounting. And I just like the entertainment industry, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do accounting, I'm going to go that route.
So you knew that was a thing early on?
Did
you grow up here?
I did. I grew up in the Valley, in Granada Hills, and so, I've just been a SoCal local, one of the few in that from the business as well. And I guess for me, I really like the entertainment industry and everything about it. And I thought I wanted to go in like business management and go that route. But I had my next door neighbor's ex-wife, she worked at Castle Rock, and I'd known her for years. And she gave me an opportunity, so I interned there. And at first I started in the script library, and I helped. I know, who would have thought? They had an opening.
My face is like, what?
I know, and I organized database for scripts for, their feature, whatever.
Were you reading and doing coverage?
No. It was really more just organization and that kind of thing, and just supporting the creative development individual. And then I interned during that. Then I got an opportunity to do production accounting. They said, well, do 2 weeks, 2 days here, 2 days there, and it kind of flipped back and forth. And finished up school, and I was recruited I was going to go to, I was thinking about getting my CPA. So I went to BDO Seidman, which was a national accounting firm. So I left Castle Rock.
Said that so fast. I'm
sorry, BDO Seidman.
Okay.
Sorry. They're a national accounting firm, and I was recruited there and worked in the tax department for about a year and a half. And then I got an opportunity to come back to Castle Rock. And I said, what am I doing this for? I want to be in the entertainment industry.
Castle Rock sounds way more fun.
It was. I mean, look, this was in their prime. This was when Seinfeld was big. This is when they were doing like City Slickers, Shawshank Redemption. They were in the Line of Fire. I mean, they had grown. When I started there, they were at 60. And by the time I left Castle Rock, they were over like, I don't know, they were close to 280. It was right when Time Warner.
Number of people?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a place to be.
They grew. And it was, it was Rob Reiner, it was Glenn Padnick, and, it was great.
Yeah.
But then Time Warner, purchased them. And I think, no, it was Turner. Sorry, Turner purchased them, and then Time Warner purchased Turner. Mm-hmm. So I've actually worked for Turner twice in my career.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Full circle. And then I went, I got married, pregnant with my second daughter. I went on leave, and then the person that had brought me in initially, she went to be the key on Seinfeld, and she said, "You want to work as the assistant accountant on Seinfeld?" And I said,
"I think so."
I said, "How do you start at the top, at the best show?" It was the last 3 years, so
my God.
It was the Gravy Train, and so it was just her and I. And we did, and we had one other person that kind of supported us and helped.
But Seinfeld had a two-person accounting crew?
Two-person accounting. We shot, it was big. There was one point in time I worked, I think, 35 days straight.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It was nuts. But it wasn't as complicated as it is. Like, accounting was different back then.
True. But Seinfeld had all the money in the world.
We did. Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, they had all the money in the world. Used to do for hair and makeup. They'd get, it was 2 days. It was like 3 for 2. And basically, your hair and makeup people were paid for 5 days and worked 2. It was a different world back then.
Is that a multicam?
Yeah, it was multicam. But we shot a lot of single camera. We shot 4 days a week.
I was going to say it wasn't a one day.
It was not. The swing. We would have to turn over our stage 1 to 2 times because they had 30 swing sets in an episode. I mean, it was huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And it was a big show.
It was big. And, we'd have like 6 days going into holidays with, coming off of forced calls. It was crazy. It was nuts. So I did the payroll and the AP on that show. I did both.
Oh, my gosh.
And then, I worked insane hours. But it was great. I mean, I loved it. I learned so much. And the person that I worked for, she was phenomenal. She trained me. She taught me everything I knew.
Who was that?
It was Vicky Perez. She was great, and I learned a lot from her. And we did other shows, and Susie Greenberg was the line producer at the time. So Susie was the head accountant, and she moved over to line produce. Then they brought Vicky in, and to be the key accountant, and I came in as the first.
Oh, great.
So
were there a lot more women on that show?
Yeah, there was. So Nancy Sproul she was like a producing coordinator, I believe. She was producer level. And some women writers, and the rest were probably men.
And then everybody else.
No. As far as, Then we had, now that I think about it. But it was great. It was a really great experience. And we did, Susie kind of oversaw all of Castle Rock Television. She wore 2 hats. She was the line producer, but she was also kind of the production exec for Castle Rock. So we did other shows like Boston Common, Single Guy. We were involved in all of that.
Wait, all at the same time?
Yeah, she kind of...
That's an impossible, big job.
Yes, but she's amazing. She can do it with grace and with her eyes closed. She's probably...
Wow.
Yeah, she's phenomenal, and I have so much respect for her.
Now, my impression, and maybe my hope, was that Seinfeld was just a lovely set and experience. Is that true?
It was. I don't... Yeah. I mean, I think Jerry...
Because all those people seem so nice.
They were. Elaine.
Julia,
excuse me. Julie was great. Jason was great. They were all phenomenal.
Yeah.
The cast was great. Andy Ackerman was the director the last 3 years. And it was a family. I mean,
and was Larry David around?
No. Larry, by the time I come on, Larry had left. And, it was like a family. It really was. I think, Dave Mandel was a writer. There were some, they've all gone on to do, a lot of other great stuff.
Yeah.
Peter Millman was a writer on that show. A lot of great talent. I don't think I was in my early 20s. I don't think I realized it at the time.
I feel like this is just how it works.
Yeah. I mean, and the money was great back then.
I bet.
It was different.
Yeah.
it wasn't, it was the late 90s. It wasn't as tight as it was now. It wasn't.
It was must-see TV.
You didn't have the corporate, pardon?
It was must-see TV.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the ratings were phenomenal. I mean, we would do a difficult episode, and they'd be like, oh, they'd buy us a bike.
Oh, those are the days.
Yeah. No,
Money was no object.
But it was a great experience, and the amount of laughs, and I can't say anything bad about it except for the fact that we worked hard. We worked hard.
So then where do you go after Seinfeld?
Well, that was the thing. So we were all kind of coming down off that high. DreamWorks had a show called It's Like You Know, and I came on as the first. Then I got an opportunity to key. Jeff Stott, who they were doing a show called Reunited. It was a small little half-hour show with Julie Haggerty, and it was small budget, 6 episodes. It was like perfect show for me to cut my teeth on. So I at first, this is a kind of interesting story because I think Vicky got the call and he says, "What, is Hilary ready?" And she's like, "No, she's, I don't think she wants to do it. She kind of wants to," and I think she brought it up to me, and I'm like, no, and I kind of said, I'm happy here, and then I went to bed that night and I couldn't sleep, and I'm like,
what am I doing?
What am I doing? This is ridiculous, and I spoke to my boss the next day, and I said, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
And she supported me, and so I got an opportunity to be a key. So I was the first for 2 years, 2.5, 3 years, and then I got an opportunity to key early on. I was pretty young. It was great. And it was perfect. I always feel like in my career, and any time I made a jump, it wasn't too big of a jump. It was kind of, it kind of flowed. And I didn't have to really put myself out there too much because I made calculated decisions in it so that I wouldn't put myself out there too much to fail. I think
you didn't want to get over your head.
Yeah, well, I think it's important. I think you got to know what's expected of you and what's going to be expected of you, and say, okay, do I have enough support around me to pull it off? And I wouldn't put myself in a situation unless I did. So and I think I've been lucky too. I don't know I think you create your own luck, but there's that whole thing.
I bet you're probably also kind of smart and kind of competent.
Well, thank you. I hope to. Yeah, I think so too.
I think that's.
I don't know how do you answer that, but yes.
Yeah, of course.
Well, yes.
I nailed it.
Yeah, I think I know whatever job's in front of me, I can put the pieces together to figure out what the end product is, or what the task at hand is, or where we want to end up.
Yeah.
And I think every goal or every accomplishment is a set of all those elements, and you just have to you can't look at the end. You got to look at step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to get to the end.
The piece in front of you. Mm-hmm. So then you stayed a production accountant for a while?
Yes. So I freelanced for about 13 years and moved around.
What shows did you do?
All in town. Okay, so what did I do? I did mostly half-hour multicams. Mm-hmm. I did the Ellen show, the second one she did. It was for CBS and ATG. I did Half and Half, which was a UPM half-hour multicam. Did a lot because I was for me, raising my kids, it was important that I was able to kind of have that balance. And that was always something that, I wanted to do 1 hour single cam, but I realized what that meant at the time, and it meant long hours. And
so explain that for people, because multicam was like sitcom.
Yeah,
maybe shoot 1-2 days a week.
Yeah, contained on set. They would show their call time would be 11, and they were done at 3. They showed up for work for 4 hours. We had much more work to do, but yeah.
But you can have a reasonable work life.
Yes, it was, and that there was a lot more flexibility. I mean, sometimes I would do 2 shows at the same time. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely more contained. You're not, the turnaround, the budget process isn't all over the place. I mean, it wasn't, I missed the challenge. I kind of got to the point where, okay, I do a budget, I do a hot cost, I do a cost report. And I mean, got very monotonous, which is fine. But the thing that I will say about doing production accounting that's fantastic is the people, and being in, as you freelance and go from show to show, you're working with different people, you're managing different personalities, and you're learning new things from different people. So you take bits and pieces from every experience freelance. I mean, as you do with anyone that does freelance and goes from show to show. But in the accounting world, I just think I refine, as I went along and worked with different people, you kind of refine your style and the way that your end product, how you get to the end and how you estimate. And then I got to a point where it became kind of a game for me. Like, how quickly can I get it done?
Because by then you have all your spreadsheets that you can cheat everything.
Yes. And it's so, I think, let's see, it was in 2000. No, 2000 was doing that. 2004. It's like 2005. That's when it was, is when I kind of made the jump into corporate.
Yeah.
For a bit, a short bit.
How did that go?
Well, so CBS and Paramount were merging, and I was just coming off a show for CBS, and Jerry Brandt and Ellen McDonald. Jerry's actually my current boss. He said, "Can you come in and..." this was kind of a liaison. It was a manager position, a liaison between the shows and production. And it was great. It was probably a little bit further removed from what I'm used to and being involved with production, because it was definitely a lot more corporate responsibilities. So I said, look, I'll come in, I'll give it a shot. I said, eventually I want to hang my hat somewhere in corporate. I want to kind of go that route. I think the freelance side, I was going to tap out. Even if I went to single camera and had those kind of challenges, I wanted different kinds of challenges because that work is great, but it's still the same. It's repetitive.
Yeah.
And
you need a bigger picture.
Yes, exactly. So I came in and it was great. I learned a ton, but again, I felt like I was a little bit further removed from the production world, which wasn't as appealing to me.
Right. Because you were never trying to be a corporate accountant.
No, because if I would have done that, I would have stayed at the accounting firm and back right out of school doing taxes. I did find out very early on in my career that was something that I didn't want, and so I was only there about a year. I gave them a year. I said, "This is not for me."
So this has been fun. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. So then I went back out in the field. Actually, Turner called me. I did a show for them for about a year, another multicam at CBS Studios Center on the lot. And then Mark Weissman asked me if I wanted to go become a director of production finance and start overseeing shows. And that was definitely the area I wanted to be in.
Yeah,
so
that was more up your alley.
Right. So I did. And
wait. You know what we didn't talk about?
What?
You worked on Waiting for Guffman.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just give that the moment that it's due. Because to me, that's like the holy grail.
It was. So that's interesting that you say that. Okay, when I think this was before, was it before I graduated or after? No, it was after. When I was working in post accounting at Castle Rock and Waiting for Guffman, they had shot, I think it was in Texas, but it was in Austin. They shot in Austin, and they had like 2 weeks second unit in LA, and they hired me to be the post accountant on that. So that was phenomenal. We did the one time I was on set. We went. It was in the Valley, and they took over, and there was like a bathtub. I think it was the bathtub scene. And Christopher Guest, he's hilarious. It was such a great. I don't think I realized at the time that what a great piece of film that was.
Yeah.
Because, it was like, oh, the budget was low.
Right, you see one little scene at a time.
Small little budget.
You don't know what you're looking at.
And everyone would say, hey, you were on that movie? I definitely got that notoriety, and it was great. So
how fun.
I love working on that show.
Okay, so you went to Turner.
Yes. So I went to Turner and did production finance for about 5 years, oversaw shows. The company was growing at that point, and we were... slowly, they were bringing more product on, more in-house series, both on the TNT and the TBS side. And then, like I said, then I got the opportunity to move into production because my boss had left. He segued from production finance to production. And for me, one of the things that is extremely important to me is to work for very smart bosses.
Yeah.
Like, I need to be challenged that way. Yeah. It's extremely important to me. And, I had a lot of respect for him, and I also, had that creative piece to me that I wanted to fulfill, which still has not gone away. And I thought, okay, this is something I want.
Yeah.
So I moved over there, and again, it was, I think I touched on this earlier as well, decided that, it was great. Although it was great, and like I said, I probably would go back to it. It just, when this thing came up at CBS, I decided this is for me, because now I'm at a point in my career and a point in this department where, I'm building something.
Yeah. So are you kind of the boss applesauce over there?
Well, yes. I mean, I wouldn't put it that way, but yeah.
That's not on your card, boss applesauce?
No, it's not. But yes, I mean, in all essence, I've been creating, this department and trying to make it, trying to basically, I'm in charge of staffing all of our shows. I'm in charge of staffing our department. And
how many people are in your group now?
There's probably 20.
20 people in your group?
In our department?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's including post-accounting. So, yeah. Yeah,
then you have all the shows underneath.
Yeah, we have all the
shows.
shows
You have.
It's funny. I just did an analysis on this because we are growing. We have
Let's see that spreadsheet.
We have 43 in-house series, and we have 10 co-pros, 10 co-productions.
Wow.
And then we've got 6 to 8 production services that we manage. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is more than, and it's pretty much doubled in the 3 years that, and I wouldn't say doubled. It's probably grown 35 to 40% in the last 3 years since I've been there.
Oh my God.
So we keep growing and growing and growing, and the tax incentives are, the shows are more complicated than they ever used to be.
For sure.
Especially with the streaming and all of that. So it's challenging, but I love it.
Now tell us, really, what is the production finance job?
Okay, so we, our team, we oversee the production finance operation, basically the operation side. So we handle all the budgeting and estimating for the shows on a pattern or a global and an episodic basis. And then we handle all like the day-to-day reporting so that production knows exactly where they're at. Also oversee all the payroll, the guild requirements, all the accounts payable expenditures that go through, through the show. Cash flow. I mean, everything that comes up from the micro level from the show feeds up through us, and then we push it to corporate so they can, do their estimates and ultimates. Also, a big part of what we do is audit, compliance, corporate compliance, and also the tax incentives, which are become a huge piece in the industry in the last probably 8 to 10 years. Everybody's chasing tax incentives.
So are you shooting all over the country, all over the world?
We're not all over the world. We're primarily in Canada. We're trying to get a footprint. We're going to probably do some stuff in UK and Europe coming up here shortly. We haven't done a ton there. A lot in Canada.
Yeah, Canada's back in a big way, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's busy. You can't, getting space there and even finding accounting there is it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are you seeing an accountant shortage right now?
Oh, yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so that's interesting that you say that. That's something that I've put this as my 2018 goal because we found, last year 2017 was extremely challenging. We found that our choices on quality accountants have kind of condensed and people are getting moved up too quickly because of the shortage.
That happens like every 10 years or so. There's a big burst. Everyone moves up too fast, and then they don't have the depth.
They don't, and we've had to make some changes on shows, and it's caused, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, I think with, now that we've got production with, Netflix and Hulu's and Amazon's, and you've got all this content out there, you've got, we've got a shortage of production accounting, and everyone's seeing it. All my colleagues at different studios are seeing it. So
we do.
Yes. So I'm trying to come up with a way to start, looking forward and assuming that this is going to continue to how do we shore up that problem or that shortage.
Yeah.
And so I kind of looking at putting it in 3 different areas. I definitely want to put like a mentoring, grooming, basically a shadow program. You've got your senior accountants who've been out there in the field doing this for years, people that, especially know CBS and know the studio, and have them work, shadow with someone who's ambitious as a first accountant ready to move to the next level.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then what I'd like to do also is we've been doing recruiting at some of the schools, and I just started doing this
Smart.
Yeah, and that really hasn't been done before, where we actually have a presence. We went to USC last week, and I did a panel discussion the week before for different level, freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. By the time they're seniors, they pretty much know where they're going. I'm learning that you have to kind of get in there a little bit earlier.
Are you going into the film television department?
No,
or
I'm actually
accounting?
going to the business school. So
Smart.
Yeah, going to the business school. I found absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think that what we're missing is a level of professionalism in the field that you really can't get from just even someone from film school. It just doesn't translate into production accounting a little bit, and I want to try and make it a little bit. I think things are so much more complex now, even though what we're doing is kind of glorified bookkeeping.
But it's a lot more business than people realize.
It is. And there's too much at stake. I mean, that's what I'm finding is like...
Because mistakes are expensive.
Yeah, mistakes.
Or omissions are expensive.
Yes. I mean, you really have to be... Everything's really fast-paced, and you've got to be at that level. And I think having that business or accounting background, it just helps.
Now, how do you kind of generate support for... Because I got to think it's got to be kind of expensive to recruit and groom people and keep them around and train them and mentor them. Like, how do you get the support?
Well, it's funny. I put together my ideas, and I think I'm getting. And I think everyone in our industry knows it's an ongoing problem,
For sure,
and my company as well. And so they support it. I mean, I haven't put something together formal yet, but we're going to do like a rotation internship program. That's what I'm working on for May of this year, and then also doing something where we bring in more interns in-house. Actually, there was somebody who we brought in 2 years ago, and she interned 2 summers, and now she's coming on full-time, and she's a great, you can identify really young people who are motivated, and you just have to kind of give them, but you have to teach them, and they have to be taught right. So you have to place them with either someone that's, willing to do it, because out in the field, you don't always get that. And so
when you do, it's amazing, and people talk about them for 30 years.
Absolutely.
But then there are a bunch that don't.
Well, the thing is, I always look back at who gave me the shot and who spent time with me. So my kind of goal in this next phase of my career is to give back in that way. Because I was fortunate. I'm here today because of the investment and the confidence that people had in my abilities. And if you've got somebody who's hardworking and has the ability to, you see that something special in them, it's such a huge investment. And it's it's extremely rewarding.
It's so worth it.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you, accounting's accounting and finance is finance. But people are people. And and it's really about the people and what they can do and the talent that they have, even with numbers. I know that sounds silly, but it's true.
No, I don't think it sounds silly at all, because it comes naturally to some people, and it's the most foreign thing in the world to other people.
Yeah.
So if you can harness that talent and get it focused, there's such a need, and it's so important. Is there some kind of... I know there's the Women's Production Society, which is all the production executives. Is there something going on like that for production finance executives? Are you guys associating?
No, well, it's interesting that I'm doing it a little bit on our own. I have we put together a dinner we do like every 3 months, and we have a group, and then we have like our guest cast people that we just to start talking. It's nothing formal, but I find that it's important because everybody's super busy, and you do lose touch with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So there's nothing formal that I'm aware of.
There's no frog and frigate?
No.
Frog and chowder?
Exactly. But I will say, some of the payroll companies are good at trying to kind of get people, do mixers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I've kind of started something with a couple colleagues of mine from other studios on my own. And we try and meet every 3 months and just kind of keep in touch. And that's actually where I presented this idea with the recruiting and reached out to USC and UCLA and Loyola Marymount and Cal State Fullerton.
I'm thinking if you all band together, it's going to be really powerful.
Yeah, we are. So this event we did last Wednesday, Netflix was there, myself, and ABC. And I'm hoping that if we all work together, because it
helps everybody.
Believe me, it's competitive. I mean, I'm at the point where, they just took my account. Or, it's like... Someone, we've invested, it's difficult because we're like all clamoring for the best accountants.
Right.
Because it is like night and day. You have an accountant on your show who doesn't cut it, and you are going to pay for it.
And if it affects your whole job.
Absolutely.
It's a whole
I mean,
different job.
it stops, to be honest with you, it stops everything. It stops
Yeah.
the machine.
Yeah.
And you've got to solve it immediately because you've got millions of dollars riding on it, and producers don't know where they're at, and they can't do their job effectively.
Right.
It's a big, big, big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, and I've seen it happen a couple times in the last year, and I'm not the only one that's seen it. I've spoken to some of my other counterparts as well, and it's challenging.
Oh, yeah, we've all seen it. When it happens,
Yes,
it's bad.
It's bad.
So let's not discount the bean counters
Yeah.
and call them bean counters.
No, they're
let's have
not.
a little respect. It's a big
Well,
deal.
they make everything move. Nothing happens without that. Nothing happens without them. Nothing. They're the first ones off and the last ones to leave.
All right, so if people are just thinking about getting into the business, there's a route that'll get you in and get you in fast.
Yeah.
To go the accounting route.
I'm sorry, what's your question?
I was just saying, if people are trying to break into the business right now, that would be a great path to get in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, but see, the thing is, you learn so much about everything. You learn how everything works because you see every penny that is spent through production. And that's definitely one way to go. Absolutely. For me, I would prefer, I've seen it both ways. I've seen some people who've come in and it's really not where their heart is, and then they kind of, it is an opportunity. But then there's a lot of people who said, I never thought I'd be doing this. Like I wanted to do.
Oh, so many people just fall into
They
it.
do fall into it, and then they end up being
And they
excellent,
like it.
and they end up being excellent accountants.
Yeah.
And they never said. I mean,
So it sounds like you're not keen on people using it as a stepping stone to do something else.
It's not that I'm not keen on it. It's just that.
It's an investment to get those people
It is.
ready and
No, and
competent.
I think you get to, no, I think everybody changes their mind with what they're doing. I think if you wanted, it's not the natural progression. I'm thinking if you want to get in because you just want to get into the business, the normal progression is to be a production assistant.
Mm-hmm. You're not going to be a director from the accounting department.
I think this is what I think. I think if you fall into accounting, you're really going to stay there. It's really hard to move over. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't look at it as a stepping stone to get into the business, per se, but because I think production accounting is a little separate from the rest of production to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Because there's just the rules are different, and the job's different, and your boss is different. I mean, you're reporting to the studio. You're not really reporting to to your producer on the show.
Right.
So I wouldn't say, generally speaking, that's the way to do it. It doesn't hurt. It is a way to do it. But I don't know if you're looking to, be a wardrobe, costume designer, if being an accountant
Accounting's not the route.
Well, probably not.
What advice do you have for young people who are trying to get in?
I would say be open to learn. I think you got to listen.
Bottom line.
Yeah, you've got it. I think, and just be willing to move around and be flexible as well. I think that you can look at any task, because when you start in production accounting, it's there's a lot of filing, and it's not glamorous work. But I think you can learn so much so quickly by filing. I mean, I remember the first time when I started off, and I was filing pink check copies, and I was looking at the payments, and I started asking questions.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, who's entertainment partners, and why are they getting a check for over $1 million?
What's going on there?
Yeah. So, and it's because you're young and you're new and you don't know the industry. And I think the more questions that you ask, and you have to be smart about it, and that your boss, it doesn't happen. People come in nowadays and they do their job and they go home and they're not curious about it.
Right. And if you're grumpy about filing and not paying attention to what you're filing, it's a whole different experience.
It is. And if you pay attention, and you actually are curious about what you're doing, you're going to move up quicker. You're going to learn fast, and you're going to move up quick. The other thing I would say is this. I always tell people, as far as your computer skills, and I think today's day and age, the kids are
they're born with them.
Yeah, so that's not even an issue. They're, they can teach us a few things,
and they do,
exactly. But I would just say also find a mentor. Find somebody that's going to help you along and help you with your soft skills. help you have that attitude of, I'll tell you, the best mentor I ever had, another one, and he said to me, he goes, stop doing everything. Like, I got to a certain point in my career, and I would do everything. I would do this, I would do that. I'd make my deadlines. He goes, miss a deadline. I go, what?
Why?
He goes, miss a deadline. Screw something up. So I'm like, what? No. He goes, yes, do it.
Why?
Because when you start doing that, people don't see that. You don't want to be relied on as the person that gets everything done. Because what you do is you go to the next level and you start thinking bigger picture instead of doing the menial tasks.
Doing the tasks
every day. Get somebody else to do it, or miss a deadline. Miss it and say, I'm too busy to do it. I'm gonna have to have someone else do it. And slowly but surely, you're not the doer, but you're the planner, the thinker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's when I got that advice, and it wasn't like it wasn't like I didn't do my job anymore. I just didn't get it done on time because I was starting to think and do other things, and I wouldn't get that balance that or reconcile that report or whatever. It took me 2 days later to do it based on deadline. No one cared because they still got it, and no one was really going to look at it 2 days before anyways.
But how'd that feel that first time, like being kind of a type A, I'm going to get all my stuff done?
I didn't, it's funny, when he told me that, I didn't really make a conscious effort to do it, but I subconsciously started doing it.
So it wasn't a deliberate, this thing's going to be late.
No, it wasn't deliberate. It was like I started thinking bigger, and then the other stuff started pushing away, and people came to me, instead of asking me to do a report and get a report out, they asked me to help them plan something. Or, can you help me put this together? Or what do you think, like a labor, they're trying to close a deal in business affairs, and they want to look at, if we brought them on this start date, how much this would cost, or, that kind of thing. And people started coming to me, and I problem solve. So I went from doing the work to becoming a problem solver. So I think when you make that's when my career took off.
That's a leap.
That was when my career took off. And that happened probably about 5-6 years ago.
Were you at Turner?
Yeah, I was at Turner, and I made that jump, and then things kind of started snowballing from there. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's next? Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it's building and organizing a department that works efficiently and growing talent, and then starting to look at bigger picture, bigger things that we can do for the company.
Yeah. So your big problems you're solving now is the accountant shortage, trying to become super efficient because you guys have so much work. Are there any other big industry things you're thinking about?
Well, that's the industry as a whole, as you know, is changing. There's mergers happening left and right. Everyone's going vertical.
Over the top.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with the AT&T and Time Warner, and who knows what CBS is looking to align themselves as well. So I don't know. I mean, I think our business model is definitely going to change in the next 5 to 10 years. So just being aware of what those changes are and being on the forefront of it and kind of seeing it, and it just really being in front of it. I don't want to be behind it.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah.
And do you think, because for a long time, the industry was completely paper-based and manual, and that was never going to change. And then all of a sudden it felt like, everybody now wants everything digital.
Digitally, yeah.
Do you think we're really at that point where people are ready to do that?
That's a good question.
Because I know the software is catching up as fast as it possibly can.
Well,
but do you think the users and the people are ready?
Oh,
do you
yeah.
think the grip is ready to do?
Yes, I am. Actually, I don't. It's funny. I don't keep files anymore. I'm ready. Is my company set up properly to be? No, we're working on it.
Yeah.
Or have other companies successfully trying to do it? Yeah. I mean, we know who those companies are, and they're working at it, and they're doing it, and it's funny because it is a. I've talked to some of these people who are used to the paper world, and it's an adjustment. Yeah. It is an adjustment. It's interesting. I've adjusted in the last 2 years. I print something out, and then it goes in the COA file. I don't keep any paper anymore. I file everything.
You did it.
Well, there's paper on my desk, but it just needs, I go through it. I'm like, I only need 5 of these pieces of paper, and the rest goes in the shred bin because I have it electronically.
When it used to be stacks and stacks, you were just
and
stacked
then you had to you know how much labor intensive it is to try and keep files.
Yeah.
Like, I don't file anymore. And then I'm like, oh, I need to create files. I'm like, and then I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, what do I need to file? I did that, and I was keeping these reports. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm like duplicating efforts here. It's ridiculous.
Because you think you're going to be on the phone, you just need to grab it on your desk, thinking it takes longer to grab it on your computer.
Yeah, I think slowly but surely it's going to happen. And I think companies, it's really the culture of the company to force it to happen. But, with that comes, you've got other things you've got to spend time on, like security breaches and, and anytime electronically.
It's a whole new host of issues.
It is. And they're kind of scary.
Yeah. And then you've got networks that have been around forever as opposed to Netflix.
Exactly.
Who's a whole...
Well, that's...
Apple
No, absolutely. Like, what do you do with all the historical data?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think you'll ever get the Teamster driving the honey wagon to go all digital?
Oh, that's a good question, too. Yes. I think you just have to make them do it.
Yeah.
Because they've done it I never thought, for our P-card system, I never thought I was going to be able to get wardrobe supervisor or, well, maybe they probably would, but certain positions on our show, or even, best boy.
Yeah.
To go onto computer cache and do their petty cash through a system. And they're doing it.
They're doing it now?
You just have to make them. Yeah. They're doing it. They're doing it because it's either that or they walk around with $500 cash in their pocket.
Right.
No one's doing that anymore.
Right.
Well, very few people. They shouldn't be doing it. To me, that's more... I think someone came in my office the other day and said, what do you want to... their wallet was stolen and they had $300 petty cash. I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that one in a while.
Right. God, are the days where you strap $10,000 to your body and get on a plane.
That hasn't happened in a while either.
So many people have those stories.
But you know what? I think it still See, that's the thing, is there are still... Those old school ways still work. And they're fail-safes. And they can still work. But is it efficient? Or is it really the world that we live in anymore?
Right.
I'll tell you one thing, though, and this is the one thing that I want to see. As the world changes, production accounting has been very set in the way they do things for many, many years, the systems and all of it. Mm-hmm. But as the world changes, I want to be a part of changing what we do along with it, because I don't want to be an antiquated process. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, it's, then it's just not comparable. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So.
What do you make of the state of women in the world at the moment? We had a big year last year.
We did.
What do you make of it?
Look, I think, you're talking about...
just all of it, like Me Too happened.
Well, okay, yeah. I didn't know if you were going that way or... Okay, it's interesting that you say that, because I think... Like you said, I think it's amazing. I think, the SAG Awards, all women presenters, and all of this. I think the recognition for women who have been working their tail ends off and not being recognized at the same level is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think the support of men to those women is really amazing too. I think there's a turning point that happened a little bit, and I think it's what women do with it to go to the next level. Will we see opportunities in equal pay and stuff like that? I don't know the answer to that. I hope so. I think if women keep fighting, we will. I think if women fight for themselves and they fight for recognition, then I definitely think we have an opportunity to kind of go to the next level.
Does this moment feel different to you?
Oh, it's big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's big.
It is big. Yeah, it does. I definitely think that it's not slow moving. Something happened quickly.
Something happened.
Yeah, and I think everyone took all the stuff that was what it did is there's a voice now.
Yeah.
Again, everything was hush hush, and now people are speaking up. And when people speak up, things get noticed and things change. When people
makes all the difference.
When people keep quiet and everything slipped under the rug, then nothing changes.
Yeah.
So I think that's important, is that you make sure that you have a voice and you speak up and you get heard, and people can't ignore it.
How do you think women in particular do that? Because I got a question the other day from someone that was like, okay, it's all great to have your voice and do your thing, and face your fear, but how do you actually take that moment and break through whatever it is that's holding you back?
You just have to do. You have to come up with a plan, and you have to do. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Like, come up, okay, I'm going to walk into someone's office, but you got to think of it. You got to be smart about it. You got to think of the bigger picture, and you got to think of the result, and you got to think about how that other person's going to react, or that group of people, or whatever. If you say this, you got to be smart about it. Think of the psyche of it.
Yeah, be strategic.
Yeah, because if you are not smart about it, you've missed an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And if you are smart about it, the gain can be a little bit of effort can go a long way if you've just put some thought in, stop and put some thought into it.
Yeah, I love that.
So one of the things, so I've been doing some mindfulness stuff.
Yeah, tell me.
I do a lot the last couple years. And I was just saying stop. So it just reminds me of an acronym that I learned that it has helped me because I move quickly. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that has helped me, but sometimes it hurts too. And so the STOP acronym is STOP, S, stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed with kindness or proceed with whatever. If you do that, your gains, I think people get mixed up because either they let the emotional side take a hold of them or whatever,
just react
quickly, and that it's just they're not getting what they ultimately want as quick as they want it. So stop, take a breath, observe. I think that's the most important, and then proceed with good intention. I think you can say kindness, but with the intention that you want to put out there. So I try and use that. I have to do that a lot because I'm moving quick, and then and before you know it, my head's in front of what I'm like, hold back, and it's it's just because things are moving so quickly, you could trip yourself up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's another thing I think as you get higher up in your career or in your level of responsibility, is to make sure that I practice some of those mindfulness moments. That's one that I just keep in my back pocket.
No, that's a great one because there is a shift that happens as you're climbing up where you're reactive and doing the good job and taking direction and doing all the tasks, and then to shift that into leadership really is a whole different switching of your mindset from task to bigger picture and mindfulness and leadership. Mm-hmm.
Well, and then there's books on, emotional intelligence and things, but it's true. Like being a leader is not, it's managing personalities. Mm-hmm. It's not managing, because you've got, and I kind of look at it like, not a chess game, but you got to look at, there's so many pieces to it, and one feeds into the other, and you just have to be aware. And awareness is a big thing too. So I think the mindfulness, and I'm working on it. We're always working on ourselves.
Isn't that exhausting? Thought by now we'd be all done.
You know what? I don't see it. It's funny that you say that. I find that when we stop learning, we die.
No, true. Who has had the biggest effect on you from a leadership perspective and how you think about it?
I have a couple women mentors that I had at Turner. That not that I don't at CBS, but these women we had a lot more transparency and exposure to them. And one of them is Sandra Dewey. And just watching her, because she's another one. She works with a lot of high-level men, powerful men, and she has such grace, and she's bright, and she's a good leader. She's an amazing leader, and I have a lot of respect for her.
If you could say one or two things that makes her a great leader, can you put your finger on it?
Well, I think she listens. And then when she speaks, she's got a little bit of funny edge to her, but she's got a lot of confidence too. And I don't think she moves too fast. I think she takes her time, and she'll put a pin in something and
just thoughtful.
Thoughtful, yeah. When you have that level of responsibility, she's not out of touch. She's in tune. And I think you lead, as you lead by example and people watch you, people emulate you. You know what I'm saying? And then there was another lady. She's now retired. She was head of legal, and see, I go for all the attorneys. And she's a little different. So she was like the master. Like, she put these deals together, and she was so thoughtful, and she could move quickly and put a contract together, a deal together super fast. She knew all the elements. So resourceful and so thought of things. But when she approached people, she always made you feel like you were on the same level, you know, and it, I don't know, she was very well respected too, because she got things done. She got things done efficiently. She was resourceful, approachable, and
a diplomat, sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, very much. Good. That's very good.
Thank you.
I guess I was getting my point across.
Yes.
Yes. And so those people kind of stuck out, you know. And again, there's many, many, many others that kind of crossed my path along the way. But, you know, when I look at where I want to be and who I want to emulate, you know, I look to women that I see, and just, you know, because I think it's important. Like, you have got to, you can't just be you have got to, like, find those people that you respect and admire and take bits and pieces from them and just learn and try and refine yourself. And it's not only that, a lot of it's giving back. And what are you giving back? And how are you mentoring, you know, people that work for you? How are you leading? One other thing I want to mention is, I think, being a good leader. And actually, someone said this to me who works for me, you know, and that's the other thing too. You know, if you're a good leader, if the people that work for you want to work for you.
Yeah.
You really do. And it's not, you don't have to be a good boss. I'm talking about a good leader. There's a difference between being a good boss and a good leader, I think. But I think one of the things that is important, and maybe this is more to being a good boss, is making sure that you give the person that's working for you, your employee, or whatever, give them what they need.
Right.
Because when you give them what they need, they give you what you need. But that's not, but it's really important. And everybody needs something different. So if you recognize that, and you're able to do that, you don't fit them in this, especially with accounting, because it's so black and white. But there's other elements to it where they're going to feel like they're challenged. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, some people don't want to be challenged. They like just doing, you know, their day-to-day. But recognizing what that person needs and giving it to them, and then I'm telling you, they'll give you everything.
So part of your job is helping them to grow.
Yes. I mean, I that's because that was, and not that was it was given to me. Mm-hmm. And I watched, and people didn't do it because they had to do it. They did it because they wanted to do it. And I feel that for me to be able to return that is truly the most rewarding part of my job. I mean, you know, it's kind of nice collecting $20 million from the state of Louisiana, but
that's satisfying for a moment.
Yeah, but you know, it's, you know, and all the work that goes into that. But
yeah.
You know, it doesn't compare to what you can do when you grow somebody and you watch their careers bloom. Yeah.
Yeah. What is next for you?
You know, I think it's not anything big. I think, like, continuing what I'm doing with the mentoring stuff. My kids are older now, so I'm like, okay, what's next for me personally? Mm-hmm. I think trying to figure that out.
I mean, I know you're doing CrossFit and stuff.
Well, yeah, but that's just so I get the cuckoo out. You know, that's just so I can keep my head above water between the week. Yeah, that's maintenance. But yeah, I want to travel. I haven't, you know, because I was young when I had my kids, so I didn't get an opportunity to do a lot of traveling. So yeah. I'd like to travel a lot and see the world. And I'm thinking about, you know, learning another couple languages, so kind of deep dive into that. It's more personal stuff, I think, trying to kind of refine that and be more of a balance. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, you know, all work
all the time.
But I love all work. You know, that's a big part of my identity. And then I'm actually, you know, interested at some point, maybe going back into, like, once I kind of do what I need to do on the production finance side, I'm interested in looking at going on the production, like really going after what my heart is, and that's mm-hmm. production. So, you know, maybe it's being a production executive, maybe it's producing, I don't know. That's definitely, I'm not quite there yet because I want to finish what I've started at CBS, mm-hmm. but there will come a time, I'm sure, where I'll be like, okay, I've done what I needed to do, or I've accomplished. Once I get to that point, we're still trying to grow and figure out. There's still a lot I need to do, but once we get to that point, I think that might be something.
You'll know when the time comes.
That's correct.
All right, we will stay tuned. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
No, I just want to say I think what you're doing here is amazing. I think being able to highlight women's lives and it gives someone an opportunity to see that there's so many different ways that women can grow and paths that they took, in the industry and even outside of the industry. And there's no right way to do it. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got a different way. And I think for me, you just have to follow your path and take each success and failure and learn from it. And that's it. It makes the world go around.
Thank you, Hilary.
Thank you.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Hilary Wagner for sharing her story. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbay, iHeartRadio, and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. Please go there right now and subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Other50% and Instagram at Other50% Podcast. Thanks for listening. See you next time.